Hello, it's Tristan here from Zebra Invest, and one of the questions I've had you guys asking is how do I value land, or even a site? Like an old block of offices, an old set of garages, possibly putting airspace extensions on top of it, or even converting a building to residential. So there's two types of land out there. One of them is greenfield, and greenfield is like a brand new development site that you can get in, crack on, and start completely from fresh. And with those, you're going to need to make sure you get your foundations, your piling in. You might even need to get your road access all built. And you're going to have various other constraints that you need to be able to cost in to be able to work out the value of that piece of land. If you're on an existing building site, you've got other things to factor. You've got to think about it. How much is it going to cost to be able to knock this down, remove any asbestos, clear up the ground, and get it all ready for development? So when you're trying to work out the value of land, a building site or development, you need to work out your professional costs. And what do I mean by that? Well, your architects are going to cost something to actually design the building, help you get it through planning. You might need a planning officer or a planner to help you get that through and actually help them secure the planning permission in the first place. Once you've got that, you need an architectural technician to actually draw the plans to convert them into something that your builder or your developer or your contractor on site can get on and build it. And with all of that, you're also going to need a structural engineer. They're going to need to be able to turn around and tell you how you're going to put it together, if you've got steel structure, how the building is going to come along. With all of that, again, you're going to probably need a building consultant, and a building consultant can help you project manage, bring all the development together, and run the site from start to finish. You'll have a SAP energy assessor who'll calculate the energy performance of what your building is going to be once it's built and once it's been developed, and whether it's going to hit a certain energy performance rating. And you need to check that in advance. You're also going to have the utility costs. So utility costs can be anything from having UK Power Network come along and put electric in the ground for you, having someone like Cadent Gas run gas for you. You can have ambient water, connect up your water, and even your utilities for your drainage. We'll always take for granted that you need to include a broadband connection as well. And so the cost on those can be anything up to probably about £4,500–5,000 per unit, whether it's a flat or a house that you're going to build. And the only downside is if you are thinking of building less properties, increase that number, because it still takes the same amount of road closures to close that road, you actually get you connected and have someone come out to do the works. Then you've got the actual build and development costs, which you need to be able to work out. It varies from parts of country to parts of country, because whilst your main building material is going to cost roughly the same throughout that city or throughout the whole country, the main thing that will change is going to be the labour cost. And also, as I said, there's two sites. With the greenfield sites, they're probably going to be a lot easier because you don't have any challenges of the existing site to deal with, whereas a brownfield site or even an office to residential conversion, it's going to have a very different set of challenges with it. So now to the numbers. Let's take a look through this and work out the figures as we go through so you can work out what your piece of land or your site is going to be worth. The first thing that you need to work out is roughly what the property is going to be worth, or the flats, whatever you're building, are going to be worth at the end of this. So what I've done here is just mocked a little Excel spreadsheet together to give you a rough idea of how this might work. I realise some people might be looking for this just to be able to work out what their piece of land's worth. So you can just do it for the one property, or if you're looking to do multiple, or you're doing flats or blocks or whatever else, this should really help you out as well. One of the bits we're going to try and work out is what the GDV of a property is. And the GDV is the gross developed value. That's basically how much all the flats are all worth, or how's it all worth at the end of it. There's a really quite simple and easy way to be able to do this. If you head over to a website, which I'll just show you now, called Property Data. If you head over to Property Data, you can quite quickly and easily work out what a property is going to be worth. They've got a great couple of tools in here, just at the top here. One, valuation, and that'll just be able to help you go and work through and look at anything else. You've got comparables, and also there's construction costs, which I'll touch base on the end of it, because we are going to need to work out how much it's going to cost to build a site. But so say, for example, you are looking to do a whole development, it can help you out. But you can also do, and I'll just open that on the side there, but you can also use it just to value a property. So say, for example, we're building a property in the city centre. We can then say it's going to be a detached house. There's no way you're going to build a detached house in Norwich. It's going to be 1,100 square feet inside. 3-bed, 2-bath, high-end finish, nice little garden, and it's got one space for off-road parking. It's going to give you a quick idea, a quick and rough idea of how much that property is worth. So if you're just doing the one, it's a really simple way of doing it. The other way of doing it is just jumping into Rightmove and having a look at it, or you can watch my video all about GDV, which I will stick in the comments below. Again, here they do the same thing, which is really good. So if you wanted to again go NR1, 3, NB, and we turn around and said we've got, as I put here, we've got say 2 of those, 2 of those, and then we've got 2 say 2 terrace houses. You can see it works exactly the same, and it'll work it all out for you. But what I'm going to do, let's go back to the spreadsheet and work it through. So I'm going to turn around and say, for example, a 90 square metre house in the centre of Norwich might be worth, say, £350,000, for argument's sake. And I'm going to say that's the same for both of those. Then we've got a 4-bedroom house. 4-bedroom houses are a bit bigger, probably a bit more desirable. So let's say they are worth £400,000. Then we've got a couple of bungalows. So bungalows are a little bit more interesting. If you are looking at building those, they do cost a little bit more to build. Because if you think about it, if you're building a house, you've only got to put in 1 set of foundations and put 1 roof on it. If you're building a bungalow, there's still 1 set of foundations and 1 roof on it. But that's where you kind of get a bit more of economies of scale. But when it does come to bungalows, because they tend to be flats or properties that people are downsizing to, they tend to still command quite a good price. And especially in Norwich, where we've got a lot of old people living here. Sorry if you're watching it. But you can just quickly go there and you can press the auto sum button to quickly total up and work out how much this site's going to be worth. So the next thing is that's always important, and you always have to remember that whether you're building it for yourself to keep hold of it, or you're building it as a development or converting a building, the profit comes first. And that's because usually you're going to be working with a lender and they want to make sure that the development or the scheme that you're putting together is profitable. And even if you're building for yourself, still make sure you're going to make some money, and it's just not a complete venture that you're just doing as a, hopefully it's going to be lovely at the end of it. So I'm going to say 30% margin, 25% and 20%. And what we do here is we simply take the GDV, we times that by the profit that we're looking to achieve, and we're simply working those out. The reason I've done this with 3 different ones, you'll see at the end, is that you can decide what profit do I want to take and what am I willing to pay at the end of it. So when it comes down to buying costs, I always allow 10%. And the idea here is that when you've got stamp duty to pay, you've got solicitors to pay, you've got, you'll have your architects, you might have a building consultant, you've got all these professional costs that are all coming in. It gives you a good little budget to kind of start it off with. So again, I just timed that by 10%. Now, finance cost, this always is chopping and changing, but you should allow a number out the total figure. I do out the end figure of the gross, the total value of the property, rather than from the lower end. So then if it is a little bit over, you've still got a bit more profit and a bit more margin in it. Or if you want to change anything later, it can work there. So I'm going to do put that in at 10%. And you can see this is a live spreadsheet as I'm making it up as we go along. So we times that by that. And then that's going to give you a rough cost. And then the next thing is you can see here, I've got 6 properties that I'm building. So I'm going to put 6 in there for utilities. And you might recall earlier in the video, I said usually for your gas, water, electric, your broadband, everything you need to get connected up for someone to come move into a property is roughly going to be about between £4,000 and £5,000. If you do look to do just the one property, I would double that and put it in about £10,000 because there are quite a lot of costs incurred and you will have to close the roads and do quite a few other bits. So that now works out. We're going to try and work out what the building costs are. So the building costs, as I've said, in Norwich, I know just off the top of my head, is about £180 to £200 a square foot if we're building a new build property. But that changes all up and down the country because the labour might be more expensive in your part of the country. To finish, various things are going to change all around the country. And if you're converting an existing building, that might even come in less, say £120 to £140 a square foot. But as I kind of pointed out earlier, there's a really good tool here just on property data where you can get a rough pound per square foot cost in your area. So you can turn and say, look, say for example, I've got NR1 3DY. Here we go, and we're putting a new build. It seems to think it's a bit more expensive than I did. If you're doing a heavy refurb, which might be converting a property from one to another, it can be a really good idea for you. So as you can see, property data is a really useful piece of kit just for trying to work out what your build costs are going to be to get down to that land value. It's excellent when you want to try and jump in and work out your GDV, find comparables in the local area, or even if you're looking to try and find deals as well. Personally, I'm signed up for the unlimited plan because I use it so much. But if you do fancy using it, there's a discount code there as ZEB that'll give you 50% off your first month, and it'll give you a 14-day free trial, so you effectively get your first month for free. I'll drop the link in the description if you fancy using that. What I'm going to do here is, as I said originally, I think it was about £180 a square foot to build. So I'm going to put my 180 in here. And then we have got up the top here, meters squared. So what you do, if you're ever going to take meters squared, you times that by 10.76 to turn it into square feet. And that is literally the ratio that it is. And that's going to tell you how big that property is. So I know here, if I add all of those numbers up, that's just how big the site is and how many square feet it is. So what I'm going to do here is say it's going to cost £180 a square foot times by the size of it, and that's how much the site should cost me to build. So £1 million, quite a lot of money. So what we're going to do here is, if we need to work out how much we can actually afford to pay for the land. And this is what the land or the site is worth. It's the actual value of that site. So you can turn around and say, I'm going to do this 3 times, just so you can see different profit margins. Take off the buying costs, take off the finance costs, take off your utilities, and take off your building costs. You can see if we're making 30% margin, it's only worth £15,000. And then what I'm going to do here again is do the same. So we take the top value, this time taking off the 525, minus your buying costs, minus your finance costs, minus your utility costs, minus your building costs. And this time we can pay £120,000 for that land. And then if we go up to the top again, take that, take off 20%, take off our buying costs, take off our finance costs, take off our utilities, take off our building costs, and then that gives you a price. So you can see here, the land value of that site or that building, if we were going to be building this out, is anything between £225,000 and £15,000. And it really just comes down to how much you are willing to pay. Whether you really want a deal, really want a site, and you're willing to pay more. The other thing that you've got to think about as well, if you are building one house and it's just for you and it's a self-build, then you don't have to pay stamp. Might probably be differences on your stamp duty. You might not need to pay as much. You might have reduced finance costs as well. So all these bits are going to make it work probably better for you than it would for someone else. If you're converting a building from commercial to residential, and it's an existing building, you have to pay 5% VAT. Whereas if it's a new build property, there's a 0 rate. So there's all different things that are going to impact the land value. But I really hope that this video has given you a bit of an inspiration, enough of an idea how to work it all out. So hopefully you found this video useful. You now know how to value land or a building site, or even possibly a commercial to residential conversion. If you do like this video, please smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and if you've got any comments, please drop them in below. Cheers guys.